Many years ago, I met a very, very great Makubal in Israel. I needed a specific Yeshua at the time, and he gave me a very powerful skula. The skula was that I go into a room with 18 candles, and I say the chapter in Tehillim, Pei Vav 86, and each time I say it, I light a candle. And I do so in the memory of the great Tanya Masi ben Charash. But I had no idea who Masi ben Charash was. I really didn't know who I was connecting to. Well, I found a beautiful medrash. The medrash in Parshas Vayigash tells us the story of Masi ben Charash. The Gemara says that Masi ben Charash was sitting and learning, and his eyes shone like the sun, because he had never gazed upon a forbidden sight. The Satan sees him, and he's jealous. So he comes to HaKadosh Baruch Hu and he says, "Who is Masi ben Charash to you?" And the Rebbeinu Shalom says, "To me, he is like a tzaddik gomer. He is a pure tzaddik." And the Satan says, allow me to cause him to sin." And Hashem says, "Fine, but you will never succeed." The Medrash tells us that the Satan disguised himself as the most beautiful woman that ever lived. And she stood before Masi ben Charash. And as soon as she did, he turned his head the other way. So the Satan followed and went to the other side where he was looking, and he turned his eyes the other way. And this went on for some time, and Masi ben Charash realized that he was going to succumb. So he called one of his Talmidim and he said, "Bring me a hot spear." And he took the hot spear, and with that he poked out his eyes. At that moment, the Medrash says, the Satan dissolved into dust. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw what happened, and he sends Malach Raphael to heal him. And Masi ben Charash says to Malach Raphael, "It's not worth it for me to have back the power of my eyes if it means that I am going to see something I should not." So Malach Raphael comes back to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends him back and says, "Tell Masi ben Charash that I am going to make sure that that never happens." And then and only then, Masi ben Charash allowed Malach Raphael to heal him. This was the underpinnings of this skula, connecting to a Tana who was so pure that he was willing to give up the power of his eyesight in order not to succumb to a forbidden sight. I walked away from this medrash with a tremendous chizuk. The chizuk was that if Masi ben Charash knew that he has to ultimately have his eyes poked out or have an avtacha from HaKadosh Baruch Hu not to see a Riyah Asura, then I know that I'm normal. I know that we're all normal. That if Masi ben Charash was tested in this way, and that he himself knew that he would succumb, so I don't have to feel like a piece of garbage when I face this test every day. I once heard a story about the Chafetz Chaim who was sitting in a man's house, and a maidservant kept coming in and serving, and she wasn't dressed appropriately. And after the second or third time, the Chafetz Chaim turned to the man and says, "Do you think I'm a malach? Why do you keep putting this test in front of me?" The same thing. The Chafetz Chaim, with all of his Kedusha, with all of his Tahira, he knew that this is a test that was very, very difficult to overcome. It's important for everybody to realize that we all face this test. If we don't think we face this test, we're living in utter denial, or we probably need to see a good doctor. Because it is the human nature to be curious, and it is the human nature to want to look at things that attract our eyes. And we should just know that there's nothing wrong with us. What's wrong with us is when we give up.